Here we go. Stand by.
When I first read the script for The First Omen, one of the biggest reasons I wanted to be part of the project was because of the character of Margaret. There's a lot going on with this woman, and there's so much backstory to this character. Margaret's a very sweet girl, right? And very shy, and she's very nervous. But you start to realize that the nervousness isn't just because she's arrived to a new place and she's meeting new people, but it's something much deeper, and that she has a very destabilized sense of self. And that is really taken advantage of by the people around her.
This is Sister Silva. She'll take good care of you.
Hello.
We're so happy to have you here.
Margaret was raised in an orphanage, and she was not treated well by the nuns. So she has a pain inside from her very turbulent childhood, and that manifests sometimes outwardly.
When I was younger, I used to have these horrible visions.
No one could deal with her until she met Cardinal Lawrence.
Cardinal Lawrence came to the orphanage, and he really helped me to see that all that stuff was just in my head.
He successfully manages to ease her mind and to give her a purpose. And she's full of hope and trust, which is soon to be betrayed.
Okay, set.
Action!
You must be Margareta.
Yes.
I'm Luz.
Oh.
It's really interesting, the relationship between Luz and Margaret.
Luz is a direct foil to Margaret's character. There's a comfort with the world around her, there's a comfort with her sexuality, and that's something that at first blush really intrigues and really frightens Margaret. So Luz twists that and uses it against her.
You're a very beautiful girl, Margareta, and you have to understand that about yourself. If only to know what it means to give it up.
For Margaret, this idea of going out to a disco is almost transgressive. She's never been to a bar, she's never been around men. Even just this simple idea of exposing your skin is terrifying to her. Something that really weighs heavily on Margaret's subconscious, that's particular to the female perspective, is a fear of what could be done to your body. And a huge part of her story is about how women's minds and souls are manipulated so that their bodies are vulnerable.
I didn't, embarrass myself or anything last night, did I?
No, you were well behaved. Mostly.
Because of the abuse that Margaret suffered as a younger girl, when she meets Carlita, she sees, in a way, a parallel version of herself.
Did you do that drawing outside, Carlita? I thought it was very nice.
Margaret feels a connection between the two of them. There's something about her which is fascinating to Margaret.
While it's really comforting to have somebody that you connect to, it's also quite triggering for Margaret because she's now re-experiencing a lot of the treatment that she went through as a kid.
Carlita, she's locked in a room.
That's right. She had to go to the bathroom.
A big shift in Margaret's character is when she says to Carlita,
I realize that I'm not bad. They just tell you that you are because you're not doing what they want you to do.
that's the first time that we really recognize that Margaret is cognizant of this gaslighting. Maybe she doesn't understand how far it goes, but she's starting to become self-aware of that.
I am the only one that cares about her.
The girl is sick in the head.
Because of you!
Cardinal Lawrence has told me the troubles you had growing up. Your hallucinations.
I think one of the main ways Margaret is manipulated is in the language that Sister Silva and Cardinal Lawrence use. They tell her that she is ill. They say, no, actually, you're sick. You internalize those messages that something's wrong with you. That's the key to master manipulation.
We think it might be time for you to take a step back.
What? No, why?
You're clearly unwell.
The key thing about Margaret's journey is that she doesn't know what's real or what's not real. She doesn't know what's a hallucination and what's a memory and what's supernatural.
I can't tell if this is
She was really trained to not trust not only her own intuition, but really what she's actually seeing with her own eyes every day.
I am so sorry that I didn't believe you, but I believe you now.
So the arc of Margaret is, as she's heading farther and farther into this darkness and this threat is circling her, she really has to tap into this suppressed intuition in order to find the strength to save herself.
Don't you hear his voice?
No, I only hear my own. I'm Margaret.
Okay, great, let's cut.
Ciao there.
The man you are looking for, the U.S. ambassador to Rome. He will be the new father.
The First Omen is a prequel to the 1976 film, The Omen, but it's also a story that could stand on its own. We were really lucky to be able to shoot in Rome.
Usually, you set a movie somewhere and then you go shoot it in a completely different place. You spend a lot of your energy trying to say, well, it needs to look like this, and we have to make this look like that, and what are we going to use to look like this iconic location? And to be here in Rome, which still has the same feel in some places that it had in the 1970s when the movie is set, we're incredibly lucky.
Yeah, please, thank you.
Rome is just like this giant, beautiful museum. You know, everywhere you look, it's gorgeous.
Every street that we pass, there's something to look at. I just want to explore.
It's also a perfect place to shoot a horror film or a psychological thriller.
Where's Carlita?
She's in the bedroom.
You walk into Rome and it's golden and beautiful and there's so much history and isn't it lovely? And then at night looks like putrescence.
As a production designer, my work is actually to create the world in which all the characters inhabit. I'm responsible for everything that they touch, see, eat. So it's a big job.
I wanted this feeling of something that is slowly starting to crawl under your skin and rot.
Of course, the locations were perfect, but then we started to add a lot more damp, aging, patina, just to make sure that you understood that there's a certain darkness rising from below.
Carlita, go to your room, okay?
The type of research I did for this film was kind of broad, choosing very carefully locations, looking at very many photographs of the time. So obviously there's a political undercurrent to this movie. So I made sure that I delved deep and read up and watched old footage of riots and the political struggles that were happening in the 70s. And that translated to posters and how we staged certain scenes.
We shot both practical sets and then also in studio, but one of my favorite sets Eve designed was the staff apartment and the bedroom that Margaret lives in with Luz. She designed it so that if you sat on Margaret's bed and you had all the doors open, you could see Luz's bed from across the apartment. So there's the ability for this other person to be staring at you and watching you as you sleep. And then you look up and there's this buttress that looks like this giant anvil that could just fall on you at any moment. So she thought of all these incredible ways to just put you a little on edge and to give you goosebumps, and you don't even really know why. She is such a huge partner in this process.
Please, Father.
Obviously, you have so many beautiful churches all over Rome, but we couldn't use any of them because of the subject matter. We looked further and further afield, but I think we found the most beautiful church. Tasha is very passionate about the details in every set.
Keep whispering.
I wanted to create certain shapes with candles that were important to Kasha. The hell mouth, as she called it, which we created with metal structures where the candles make a mouth.
The level of detail is so beautiful.
The orphanage is one of the biggest characters in its own way. It is the world that binds them all together. We were to use very beautiful locations that we would find in and around Rome, but we couldn't find everything within one building. It was quite a task to put 3 buildings together and make sure that they all linked.
Welcome to our family.
Oh, thank you.
Come with me.
Our costumes were designed by Paco Delgado.
The important thing about costumes is they help the actors to become the characters. Margaret, for example, we wanted to create an outfit that reflected the fact that she was a novice, but at the same time, she was out in the world.
Maggie, look at you.
But they look really, really severe, but at the same time, they have certain glamour and style.
Ah, there she is. Oh my God, you look hot.
Luz, it was also a very enjoyable character to do because she had this sort of like hidden life.
There's this moment where she's getting ready for the disco and she has this Rafaela Carrera wig on. She is fully transformed into this fun-loving disco lady, when right before she was a religious zealot.
I know it's scary coming out from under the habit, but look at you.
One of the scary things about this orphanage is the nuns. Paco designed it so that when the nuns move down the hall, they swing like a pendulum, but then their veils are very light and flowing, so it's like these ghosts of death just walking around everywhere.
Kasha, from the very beginning, said that she wanted to have these sort of like figures, like almost floating on the alleyways. We tried to design the costumes. They look like really heavy, but in fact, they are really, really light materials that they move with the wind and they move when they're walking on the aisles.
Scusi, I should see what the trouble is.
We wanted to show a little bit that this orphanage was not really 70s. These little girls were dressed with clothes that they were like maybe made in the 40s or in the 50s.
Like everything in the orphanage, the girls' outfits, from afar, they look totally fine and totally clean, but you look closer and you realize, oh no, they don't take care of these kids. These are hand-me-downs and they're ripped and they're torn and they're dirty.
Dirty?
But all of the nun habits are pristine.
And the uniforms of the girls, they have a sort of like a sinister, soul-like feeling in a way.
The things we do aren't always pleasant, but they are in the name of God.
There's so many VFX in the movie. There's so many ways of approaching the storytelling. Kasha wants to do as much as possible practically. You're like, hell yeah, I can't wait to do this. Kathy, the co-owner of my shop, work hand in hand with Kasha.
Adrian and Kathy are dark wizards. They're scary good. In the birthing clinic, for example, blurring the lines between realism and surrealism and not knowing the difference, that's where a lot of the horror stems from. One of my favorite moments in the movie is when burnt, crispy, juicy, oozy Angelica comes out. Just came out looking truly magnificent.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Like perfect amount of crisp, perfect amount of ooze, perfect amount of blood. And we wanted it to look like, even in the dark, you just see her smiling, which meant that her lips had to be burned away. So the Moreau team were able to make this piece to put in her mouth so that she was continuously smiling like this living skull. I loved it.
And action.
This group of people has been such an honor for me to be around. Arkasha has made this experience incredible.
That's beautiful. And reset.
When I work on a movie like this with the most sincere and pleasant crew that I've worked with, and I walk on set every day with a big smile on my face.
Everybody was fearless, and nobody was afraid of the content.
Please.
We do take some big swings, and those swings don't work if somebody, even one person, isn't fully committed. But everybody was, and everybody was committed to each other and to the story. And I'm very grateful to that. I think you can feel it.
How do you control people who no longer believe in your stories of fire and brimstone? You create something to fear.
I like asking directors, what is your vision? And Arkasha Stevenson does have a real vision and a real visual concept for this film.
Arkasha's amazing. She's just like this force of nature.
I grew up a huge horror fan. I loved it as a child. Horror movies that I really love make me stop breathing for long periods of time. And when the movie finally finishes, I realize, like, oh, I can breathe now. This tourniquet feeling and this sense of paranoia, that was a physical feeling we wanted people to have. I wanted to be part of the First Omen because it really offered to be in dialogue with the original. The 1976 version never felt like a true horror film to me. It felt like a family drama. You did really care about them. When everything goes south for them, it really stays with you. That's how this script seemed to be focused, was about Margaret and her relationship with Carlita.
Can we put camera in a little bit?
That's great.
Arkasha feels like a craftswoman putting the pieces together. She goes really deep into the detail in what she wants. She's grounding the movie with the characters.
Has anyone ever done anything to you?
It is an interesting opportunity to explore horror in a way that was particular to the female experience and the female perspective.
Arkasha's vision to tell the story through this female lens, it's permeated every frame we've captured.
You want to start from the top?
Here we go.
What amazed me was she controlling everything. Position the camera, if the light's good, the wardrobe, everything. That's on her.
And then now she goes to the window, Sandra, with this. Great. I was so excited about this project because you have this fantastic franchise that I had the opportunity to add on to. My writing partner, Tim Smith, and I went to Rome right when we were hired. And we didn't realize this, but we actually landed on the 750th anniversary of Dante Alighieri's Inferno. Dante's Inferno is just this big roller coaster all the way down to the pits of despair. And so we're like, this is how we want to structure the film. We start up high in heaven and everything's golden.
Welcome to our family.
Oh, thank you. And slowly Margaret slips down this slide and then finds herself in absolute hell. Rome is a really interesting city because there's so much religious iconography everywhere, but there's also all these statues and faces and eyes. And so to have this idea of somebody watching you all the time, I think was really important for us. We also wanted to create that feeling of being able to hear a lot of voices constantly and a lot of whispering. Reset. And Tim, you almost have to come a little left. Yeah? A lot of the religious imagery that we were taking in were depictions of war and drawing parallels between war and hell. That really inspired this idea that hell is a man-made thing, and man really is what brings hell to earth. In this film, the devil is really just a tool, and religion is really just a conduit. And so a lot of the evil in this film is man-made.
This movie needed Arkasha, especially with a film of this content and of this darkness. If it was handled in a different way, I think it could have been really difficult to do. I just have so much respect for her. Okay, great, let's cut.
Cut there.